not it should come.
Hi.
Mic. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Can you?
Can you
Yeah.
see?
Yes.
I
You've
don't
joined.
Sorry,
Yes.
I don't know how to turn my video
You can
off.
see.
There we go.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Shall I leave my video on or turn it off? Which is better?
Anything. I think whatever is comfortable with you.
I'll leave it off because then the bandwidth is faster. Otherwise, sometimes it.
Sure. Yeah. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Can you? Yeah. Yes. You've joined.
Sorry, turn my video off.
Okay, so we'll start our session, the live session.
Hi.
We have with us Dr. Prashanth. And just a quick introduction about him.
Turn it off. Which is better?
He has a wide range of experience in healthcare delivery and management. He's been working in a lot of challenging settings like tribal areas. He has managed a lot of programs in rural areas like telemedicine and health insurance. Then he has implemented community mental health programs. He has been into training the paramedical workers, and he has had in his name a lot of publications in some of the established journals. And apart from academic and healthcare interest, he is an avid nature and wildlife expert. So with all his expertise and knowledge, he's here with us as a subject matter expert. So all the classrooms that you hear, he's the one who's developing it and helping us to record it and then share all his knowledge and expertise with you. So I think we'll start the session. So you can, if you have any question, you start it and he'll be there to answer that for you.
Can I use this? That's okay. Then I can speak this way.
Her mic is muted. Okay, I think she's muted it.
Yeah, she's muted. Yeah. Okay, welcome to the Hangout. At this moment, it looks like we have Elizabeth Cassidy and Snigdha. Okay, there might be two of the participants participating in this. My pleasure to interact directly with both of you because this is not often the case in an e-learning program that we are able to directly interact with each other. We are trying out this format of using a Google Hangout to try and see firstly how the participants of the course are finding the content, as well as perhaps use the opportunity to discuss any comments, clarifications, doubts, questions, or anything for that matter related to the content of ePHM. I am not sure how will they ask if they want to ask a question. Will they?
They can chat.
They'll type. Okay.
They can chat.
So then the idea is if you, I'll start with making a few comments and observations, drawing from the assignment submissions that we have received. If there are any questions or if you'd like to come in with a clarification or a question, you can just leave a chat message, and then we will put you on for this. Any opening? You want to check whether Snigdha has been able to come on? We'll just take a moment and check whether Snigdha, who is also online, has been able to log in. Yeah, you can check if Elizabeth gets this. And Elizabeth, can you confirm if it is better now? And
I think so. It usually, what was happening was I could hear your voices first, and then as you spoke again, the echo of the first voice would come. But it sounds clear now. I'm not hearing the echo now.
Excellent. We are also able to hear you clearly now.
Yay!
Okay. That's fine. So then we can, I just explained earlier that it seems there are two participants, but I think Snigdha is having problems getting into the Hangout. It may be because of the email address issue. I mean, I think those who have a Gmail address, it's easier to get into the Google Hangout. But I was just explaining that this is an opportunity for us to check and see how you're feeling with the modules and what you think, and to discuss if there is any questions or comments and things like that. Yeah, I have also turned off, just 1 minute. Okay, we're just checking with that issue again. Hang on, please. Elizabeth, is it possible that you have also kept the YouTube broadcast open while we are doing the Hangout? Because apparently, after a small delay, YouTube broadcasts the transmission again. So can you just check on that?
I think they have opened the new.
Oh, I think you're right. I've just closed that. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I think it's good now.
Okay, great. So I just thought I'll make some opening remarks. The idea for the first two modules was these were sort of overview modules. I think in the first module we went through. Can you have the right? We went through an overview of all the health systems. We looked at various kind of issues, the health programs, health-seeking behavior, and many such things. We also had a small focus on urban health. You had two assignments. They were somewhat overlapping in their nature. The first one was more a description of a health system using the health systems dynamics framework, while the second assignment was trying to go a bit deeper and trying to see if you can develop already some analysis or recommendations using the framework. So I wanted to hear from you what you thought of this framework, including limitations and what you think are its problems, or how this struck you, this whole concept of looking at health services and all the other things as a system.
I really liked the. It's okay if I just talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I really liked the framework. I thought it was very comprehensive. I liked that you kept saying in the modules, you know, this isn't the only framework you should ever use, but I found it very helpful because it helps you think through every aspect, or many aspects at least, of what could be coming into play in your outcomes. So I really liked it.
Good. That's nice to know. And also from the one of the we had a video in between. After looking at some of the assignments, I was getting the impression that some of the people, while applying the framework, were not identifying linkages. For example, I refer to your assignment where you have nicely identified some of the places where health financing, health services, and governance, for example, interact to result in a poor quality of care to the patient. I think the strength of any of these frameworks is that you need to be able to identify how the various elements of the framework come together. Otherwise, it just ends up being a description of what you see, and it doesn't help you advance in your analysis. So that's one thing. Second thing is I think it's important to know, like I stressed in the module as well, that there are many other frameworks out there. So this is the one that we use a lot. It also comes to us from some of our close collaborators in Institute of Tropical Medicine in Antwerp. But there are many other public health schools who have developed other frameworks. There's also several frameworks developed by international agencies. So it's good to not get stuck with one in case you find difficulties in applying it in your context. It's good to also expand. Yeah, that's a bit about the framework. Did you have any particular comments, doubts about anything else in the first two modules that you would like to talk about?
Well, I don't know if this is doubts. Module 2 is very interesting to me because, of course, I'm not Indian, so the whole history of public health in India was very fascinating to me, and I'm still trying to sort through. There's so many things that are very, I think, just intuitive to people who are born and raised here, and I'm still like, okay, so in the village, first there's an Asha, and what can she and can't she do? Anyway, it was fascinating to me, but I think I'm going to have to watch those modules again to get a lot of that information through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Have you been from your assignment? I gather that you are also doing some field work. So you're in the field in one of the urban poor neighborhoods in Bangalore. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in we were working in a little slum off Modi Road in DJ Holly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I work with an Indian couple down there, and we have as well 3 staff members from the slum who work for us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they know a lot more than me, obviously, because they're all from here, and I'm constantly learning from them. But it's been a sharp learning curve for me, even understanding, the role of the Ayush in people's health choices, and we're not even. My background is public health, but we're doing community development stuff because, as you know, that increases health outcomes. But again, it's been a sharp learning curve for me as I understand how all these things come into play in this area.
Mm-hmm. How is your experience with interacting with health service providers of the government? Have you had any interaction, say, for example, with the ASHA or the Anganwadi worker or any of them?
No, I personally haven't. Although the people who I work with have, they're all. Many of the people who come to our center for the English classes and the tailoring classes are also have their children in our school. All of them will tell us about the health workers who come when they're pregnant and after the baby is born. So I know that they're interacting with them, but I personally haven't interacted with them.
Okay. So in our experience, what you referred, for example, to the paper on the KG urban poor slum, which uses the health systems dynamics framework. In our experience, it's very useful. Even when sometimes you feel the health providers are not doing enough, or they are not on site most of the time, etc., which is often the case in many places. It's very useful to have some sort of interactions with them on how they see things in the same area, so you get a different perspective on the thing. Second thing was about the programs. Did you find it a bit information heavy, because there are a bunch of programs implemented at the district level in most districts in India, and that's what a lot of the units, the second module, was about. There has been this recent effort at trying to bring all the programs together under a national health mission. Over time, this is what in public health is referred to as integration. So there has been some effort at trying to integrate the delivery of these programs, at least at the district level, if not already at the primary health center level. So how is your, I know you have not been out in the field a lot, but do you want to share anything about those units, or about your experience with looking at any of these programs?
Sure. I feel like, again, I've seen how people have interacted with the programs through through what they've shared with me and not through personal knowledge. But I know that, you know, a lot of the people that I work with are getting food rations. A lot of them don't enjoy interacting with the government health system so much because they think the quality of care isn't good and they often have to wait in lines. So I've seen those sorts of elements of it. But again, I don't have, I hate to even speak of it because I don't have an in-depth knowledge.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, most people who begin any kind of engagement with public health in India, at least, begin with a clean slate because, as you must have seen, there's not much of a public health training or not much of established public health training at college level or in terms of degrees in India. Only in the last 5 to 10 years, many public health schools have opened up, and often within medical schools, and very few public health schools situated within social science or many of the other humanities disciplines. So public health thinking as such, in an organized fashion as a science, is somewhat new in that sense. So it's fine if you do not already have field experience, and in that sense I hope the second module gave you then an introduction to the various programs that work. Very roughly, to summarize these programs, I think these programs come from a time when um, controlling of a disease was primarily the intent of many of these programs. So they often approached the disease as the problem rather than looking at society or that particular landscape and trying to analyze and strengthen the local health services. So that's what differentiates them from a more systems approaches, a health system approach. So if you look at public health literature, you may already be familiar with some of this discussion. There is a lot of debate, especially in the 90s and 2000s, about vertical approaches and horizontal approaches. So over time within India as well, many of these programs have slowly begun to get integrated at the district level. Now, what such an integration means, it's still not, for example, entirely under one program. So, at the district level, for example, there will still continue to be different people who are in charge of tuberculosis, for example, or vector-borne diseases, or reproductive and child health, mental health, diabetes, hypertension, and stroke, and cardiovascular diseases. So it still continues to be splintered. At least now, these are all situated within or under one district health officer. So that's how integration. That's how far integration has gone in the Indian district. So yeah, that's a bit on the programs. It's still not the best way to organize a health system. Most public health experts would argue that if you are able to strengthen your primary health care to a degree that a doctor at primary health care or somebody at a primary health center is able to organize treatment for all the major illnesses in their area using approaches, customizing his approaches to his particular area, that is the best scenario. So we are still far from that. We are still at a level where districts and states determine the nature and structure of programs which are then implemented by district level officers. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, again, I don't know if there's other people speaking, but I always have things to share. But yeah, definitely in Module 2, when you talked about how scattered, I guess is the right word, the approach was before and continues to be as they're trying to integrate everything. I feel like I've definitely been able to interact with that at some level because there doesn't seem to be anybody who feels like they have one place that gets all their needs met or their questions answered because so and so, like even the people who came through vaccinating everybody for polio. Their only concern was polio. And so I don't have anything interesting to say except that I have definitely seen and couldn't put a finger on those things until I was watching the modules and getting a much fuller picture of the history of public health in India.
Yeah, no, that's you said there's not much interesting to add, but that is indeed very interesting. In fact, at a future date, I'm sure Anisha will be able to organize a hangout with Upendra Bhojani, who is our in-house IPH person who is doing a lot of work with urban health. So the phenomenon that you just mentioned now is even worse in the case of urban health, because in cities in India, there's also this larger confusion as to whether urban local bodies, which are, for example, municipal corporations, or health departments run by the state, or ward level local agencies, who is the person who has to be in charge of health. So in the case of urban health, the problem of lack of integration becomes even more severe. So, and it's true what you mentioned. I heard there is also a few other questions. Yeah. Okay. So as and when questions come in from the others, I will take them up. Just one moment.
They are only able to hear you because they are not joining.
Okay, so I believe a few other participants are only able to hear but are not able to interact because I think they have not joined the Hangout. If you're able to hear me, what you need to do is click the link that was sent now, I think, by Anisha, and then it will open a new window. And in that new window, you can see a video as well as we can have a brief interaction. So, okay, I have a question here on, in Bengal, we have a subdivision level structure in the health system, which was not included. That's true. That's very true. So one of the participants points out that even within Indian states, there is a lot of difference. For example, in some states there are mandals, blocks, subdivisions, and different states in India have organized their health services in with slight modification. Adds to the confusion of understanding the Indian health system. And the reason for this is because some states in India have implemented the Panchayati Raj Amendment, which means that some states have begun a process of devolution of state responsibilities and state services to the district and lower levels, to a district panchayat, for example. Some places it's called the Zilla Panchayat, to the Taluka or Mandal Panchayat, which is sub-district, and also to the Gram Panchayat in a few areas. One example is the state of Nagaland in northeast India, where devolution of powers has gone quite a bit up to the village panchayat level. So in the case of Nagaland, Arogya Raksha Samitis, patient welfare committees at village, at PHC level, are very strong, and they are playing a very positive role in reforming the health services. In the case of Bengal, like Snigdha points out, there is also a very prominence of the subdivisional level within the Bengal health system. In the module, we did not cover particular differences from one state to another, and I think it's very important. In fact, if Snigdha, if you are able to hear us, it would be wonderful for you to point out in a discussion thread how you see differences in what was presented in the module from the situation in Bengal. That would also be a very good learning experience for others as well as for us. We may possibly include it in future editions. One other state I can mention, for example, is Tamil Nadu. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, but there is a very well-known book in global health called, it's abbreviated as GHLC, Global Health at Good Health at Low Cost. Sorry, It's called GHLC, which is Good Health at Low Cost. I would urge you all to Google this book. In fact, if while we speak, I can give you some more details. So this book, Good Health at Low Cost, is a very well-known book published by the London School I think a couple of decades back, 25 years back. They had brought out this book, and it had featured in those days the Kerala health system as a model health system. And I think Costa Rica was also featured, another country in Central America, was featured as a model health system. Now, both these examples were given to show how the health systems in Kerala or the health system of Costa Rica are able to provide a high degree of health. They're able to provide a high degree of health care as well as health for their citizens at a cost that is much less than what, for example, United States or many of the high-income countries were providing at that time. So the message of this book, 25 years back, Good Health at Low Cost, was to try and explain that improving people's health is not only about money. It is also about money, but it's not only about money. It tried to stress upon some models, including Sri Lanka, Kerala, and Costa Rica, as saying that these are interesting models to learn that improving health of people is not entirely about money. Now, GHLC came out with a recent edition, I think a couple of years back. It's called Good Health at Low Cost, 25 Years On. It's a very nice book. The PDF is available for free. I can request later Anisha to share this link on the as an announcement. So that book now features the Tamil Nadu health system. Over time, the authors felt that the Tamil Nadu health system has made a lot of positive efforts towards strengthening it. One feature of the Tamil Nadu health system that I can two actually that I can discuss in this hangout. One is they have what is called as a public health cadre. So over time, doctors who are entering the Tamil Nadu health system can choose to specialize either in clinical specialties or in public health. So 6 years after they enter their service, they make a choice, and over time, a public health cadre develops who are specially in charge of ensuring health of a given district or a taluka or a subdivision, as the case may be. The second strength of the Tamil Nadu health system is a very efficient and effective supply chain for drugs and vaccines. So these are two things. I will not go fully into the details of the various strengths of the Tamil Nadu health system. We'll share a link of Good Health at Low Cost with all of you. So to wrap up, thank you, Snigdha, for raising that issue, and I hope you will bring up the features of the Bengal health system in one of the discussion threads. Okay, so those I wonder if anyone else will be. Yeah, I think more of you have joined. You're able to hear me, but I think you're not able to see the video itself. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send it on the WhatsApp group. Anisha is watching the group, so if there is any question, I can talk about it. You can also bring up comments, or in case, for example, there are places in the module where what you heard is different from what you see in the field. These would be interesting things to discuss. Does anybody want to come in or make a point? Feel free to just pop a chat message and you can. But they're not able to, is it? Okay. Okay. Okay, so then let me just move on to discussing some things that Anisha had highlighted for the discussion. I think so there's a very interesting question, I think, from Ajit. Ajit, if you remember, I think had posted also the two very interesting articles. One by Dr. Devi Shetty. And second one by, I forget the name, but professor of community medicine from All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So I think it's both those articles are very interesting arguments in favor of a particular thinking about the Indian health system. So it's very important to know that how should a health system be is actually, in my, this is now just my personal opinion, is not only a technical question. There is also a lot of politics involved. And when I say politics here, it's important to emphasize that I'm not talking about political parties, but political ideologies and political positions that we take on how our health system has to be. For example, and that's where actually the function, if you remember the values function within the health system dynamics framework, that is the function that captures what kind of values one ought to design a health system comes in. For example, if one were to design a health system which is focusing on equity, then if equity is a value that guides health system design, then very clearly there has to be a strong state role in ensuring that this equity happens. So in such a scenario, in a scenario where equity guides health system design, it's very important to ensure that the state is playing the role of safeguarding the interests of those who are falling off or dropping out. In line with this is Ajit's question on the role of private sector. Here I'm going to share my opinion. I'm not trying to summarize, say that this is a technical position. My opinion is that in a country like India, one cannot wish away the private sector, even if we believe that inherently the level of regulation is poor. Many particular kind, because private sector is very vast. It includes hospitals like Narayana Hridayalaya and Apollo on one hand, and includes a single doctor clinic on the other, right? So even if one says the private sector is causing problems, in some cases their quality is poor or they're very profit oriented, these are some things that we hear about the private sector. It cannot be wished away. I think in that sense I somewhat agree with the response to Dr. Devi Shetty's article about the need to strengthen governance and regulation to a great degree to ensure participation of the private sector, but keeping the interests of equity in mind. I think this is of course an ongoing debate, and I would really urge participants to take a look at 1 minute. I think this one is. I would urge participants to look at the two articles shared by Ajit, and we should possibly have a discussion on this. I would like to hear what you all think about the role of private sector in our health system. Anybody wants to come in now, feel free to, but I think many of you are not on the Hangout itself, right? Yeah. Anything else coming in?
So, subdivision systems above the block level and subdivision level.
Yeah. I think Snigdha has just provided on the chat a clarification about the subdivisional level. How there is a medical officer at the subdivisional level as well in Bengal who is in charge of this function. In Karnataka also actually there is a subdivision, and in a few other states as well, where a few talukas form a subdivision within a district. But different states give different degrees of power and responsibilities to the subdivisional level. In the case of Karnataka, the subdivisional medical officer post does not exist, and rather a taluka health officer and a district health officer are the people in charge of health of a district and taluka respectively. But like I mentioned earlier, different states have organized their health services differently. I think Ajit Verma has joined the call. Yeah, please go ahead. Would you like to make a comment? Go ahead. Can you hear us?
I was just trying to understand that if you, as we go down deeper into, right at the PHC level, I assume that for whatever reason, the public system is unable to serve all the current needs of people who are there. So, and of course, there's a lot been done in the past 20, 30 years to improve that, and especially in the last maybe 10, 15 years post NRHM, etc. But I'm just wondering that is there a complementary role the private sector can take at that level to complement the public system and offer more to people who need it? That was the question, really. I mean, is that possible? Is that socially or sociologically correct, incorrect? You know, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. I'll just quickly repeat the question. At the current level, correct me if I'm right, the current level primary health centers are not really able to cope with the healthcare needs of a large rural population. Whereas on the other hand, there is a private sector. So the question is, to what degree do we see the role of the private sector in filling up this gap, as well as whether it is socially, sociologically, or technically acceptable, and what is the position on that? I believe that is the question. Like I said earlier, it's very important to
You have to speak again. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I believe I have muted my mic, and I was sorry. So let me respond again. The question was on what is the role for private sector, say for example at the level of primary healthcare, and to what extent is it technically or socially or politically acceptable and things like that. The question is from Ajit. I think it's very important that the private sector is vast, it is very diverse, and it's here to stay. So even, for example, if a few public health experts would say the private sector is evil, or it should not be there, or or that it is best, it cannot be wished away. There is a very large private sector out there. The question is, I think, or rather the main problem for India in making full use of the private sector is that the regulation function is very poor. And in a scenario where regulation is very poor, it seems that many problems caused or many ill effects of private sector competition or market-oriented approaches can have a very negative impact on the population. Now, that said, there are already a lot of models out there for private sector engagement. One, for example, is the public-private partnership in primary healthcare. Many state governments are actively involving and offering primary health centers for management to civil societies, NGOs, private medical colleges, etc. So that's one way in which governments have tried to look to engage the private sector. The tuberculosis program, for example, has many schemes for participation either by single doctor private clinics or corporate hospitals or NGOs to function within the RMTCP program. In Tamil Nadu, there is also a very interesting experiment by, I think Sugawalu it's called. If you can Google Tamil Nadu primary healthcare public-private partnership, I think you will get some interesting links to that. So in summary, I think there's no doubt that the private sector has to be involved. Again, I stress that this is an opinion, but it has to be involved in a way such that its obvious ill effects that come out of profiteering should be controlled by an effective regulator. Now, on the second part of Ajit's question on whether it's sociologically acceptable or not, that's, I think, a bit more interesting, because like I mentioned earlier, health and healthcare are not merely medical. So they are also political in the sense that people have political positions on how health and healthcare have to be organized. So one cannot claim that this is merely a technical question. I know of several rights-based healthcare advocates who would say that there is no role for a private sector. On the other hand, I know of several public health experts who claim that in the current scenario in India, to keep waiting for the public health sector to deliver will just mean that healthcare for many of our people is going to continue being very poor. So they make a case for a fully market-based, competitive private sector. I feel, again, this is just an opinion, I feel that it's important to have a very strong regulator and ensure private, a good private sector participation within healthcare provision. Any thoughts on that? Snigdha is saying political influence in private sector is actually worsening the things. Do you want to comment on that, Snigdha? Maybe. Yeah, I think she's on there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So actually, what I am trying to say is that in recent case in Amri Hospital is now in the news. So there you can see that because of the political influence, the so many people died because of the fire and all the illegal things happened there. But people can get away from that. So then the private sector can do things the way they want to do. So this is one of the issue in India. That is a reason even the small to the large private sector, they don't even care the regulation we already have. Maybe there are some regulation we don't have, but even if there is a regulation, this is not implemented because some of the political people are backing the private sectors. I think this is one of the key challenges we have in the private sector.
Yeah, thank you, Snigdha. I agree with your comment actually that there is this degree of problems in private sector involvement. But like I was saying earlier, I personally believe that there is not much of a choice. You mentioned here about collusion between, for example, political establishment and the private sector. So until we are able to crack governance and management, good management and good administration, I think we cannot. I mean, there's no other way, because like I mentioned earlier, very few states have implemented a bill that India has already introduced for private sector regulation, the Private Medical Establishment Act. And on one hand, the implementation is poor, and on the other hand, there is also not much improvement in the public sector. So it's very difficult to not allow private sector on one hand, but not even strengthen the public sector on the other. Because if we don't do both, ultimately the people who suffer are invariably the ones who cannot afford healthcare. Ajit, you want to make any comment on that? We can't hear him. Huh? We are not able to hear you, Ajit. I think you've muted your. Yeah, now we can hear you. Go ahead. No, we're not able to hear him.
He's muted his thing.
Yeah, maybe it's on mute. Okay, just to conclude, let's conclude on this topic of governance and private sector participation. Let's not say the last word on this hangout. There is a lot to be said about the nature of private sector engagement with healthcare. I would really like to hear from you all on this matter. So do post your responses on the discussion forum. And like I mentioned before, there is not really a technical answer for this. If you look at many countries have answered this question very differently. In the United States, for example, a large proportion of healthcare is delivered by health maintenance organizations. And many of the states in the United States also do well. On the other hand, the cost incurred is higher. In many other countries, healthcare is organized through state-run insurance. In many other countries, it's organized by a private and public sector working together. So there's not really a final one answer to whether private sector should be involved or not. I can only conclude by saying that the private sector is quite large in India. They are very diverse in nature, and I believe that we need to have a good regulatory system that ensures uh, their optimal participation in improving healthcare. So I would not wish away the private sector thinking that it is entirely for profit. That is the nature of the sector. We have to improve our regulatory apparatus to accommodate this kind of healthcare. That's all I would say. Any other things that have come in? Okay, I think we have covered quite a bit. Unless somebody wants to, you can also type in a chat message here in case you want something in particular to be mentioned. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if all of you were able to hear me at that time. There is this very good publication called Good Health at Low Cost by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which features in the second edition the Tamil Nadu health system. It's a very interesting case study of how Tamil Nadu has gone about its health reforms. We will be sharing that in the classroom later. You can look at that chapter. You can also look at many of the other chapters. Yeah, I think we earlier also, to recap, talked a bit about integration of health services, integration of programs under the NHM umbrella, the National Health Mission umbrella. And we spoke about the health systems framework. Yeah. So those of you who missed out on the initial parts, I think the video will be available. We can edit it a bit to remove the empty portions, and I think you can also go there. So unless yeah. So Snigdha makes a comment that can our exams have less memorized game? I guess you are referring to too many questions that are based on recollection of facts and figures. We'll keep that. We'll take that as a feedback and relook at some of those. We'll try to emphasize more on questions that gather perspectives. That said, some facts and figures which we feel are important will probably still be there. But yes, I'll discuss this also with many of my colleagues who have participated in designing the content. Anything else? If not, I will thank you for this first Google Hangout. We also tried this as an experiment to have a direct interaction with the participants. From time to time, in due course, we will also try to organize more such interactions, possibly with many other people with expertise in other aspects of health system as well. Hopefully, if all goes well, we may have a hangout with Upendra Bojani, who has worked on urban health, probably with Dr. Devadasan, who's worked a lot on health financing. And we look forward to all your active participation in all these hangouts. Feel free to share with us feedback, questions, comments, etc., and do participate actively on the discussion forum. We can take forward some of the conversations that we have started here. Okay, thank you very much to all of you and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.